What is going on, Miami Dolphins fans? Welcome to the Fins Up Network. It's Ben Morgan, and we got some stock up, stock down this week as we get set for the LA Chargers. Obviously, the game that got flexed to Sunday Night Football, so we're all pumped to be on the national stage. Tua versus Herbert. I mean, that's the headline. But at the end of the day, I don't want to say this is a must win, but man, this game got magnified. But we're going to be talking all week Dolphins, Chargers, but we want to do some stock up, stock down today. And honestly, I don't have as many stock downs today as I typically would after a loss, because obviously going back to last week's 49ers game. And I think the biggest reason for that is because I think we win that game, and maybe we win that game with a decent amount of relative ease if we just execute the damn plays. There's me using that E word again. Execution was the name of the game last week, especially after Jimmy G got hurt. And I'm going to talk more about that, obviously, during this video. But before I get started, I want to hear from you as well. As always, drop your stock up, stock down players in the comments below and give this video a like if you like mine. But let's jump in with a stock up. Probably the biggest stock up, a guy that flies under the radar, doesn't play a sexy position, but has been getting the job done, improving year after year. And man, this guy is about to get, that's right, he's about to get paid. 12 tackles, season high for Christian Wilkins against the 49ers. Take a look at this. 10 of those tackles, double-digit tackles, came within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage. We heard about it all offseason. This dude was a menace, creeping into the backfield, shooting those gaps, getting those tackles for a loss, getting those tackles at the line of scrimmage. The best play for my money, I got two actually. The chase down, I forgot who the receiver was for the 49ers, but he chased that play down, actually forced a fumble. The ball went out of bounds, so didn't have an opportunity to recover it. That play was 110% effort. If we had that, we're going to talk about effort here in a little while as well. But if we had that from every Miami Dolphins player, this team would be scary good. Wilkins is always flying all over the field. But for my money, the best play from Christian Wilkins on that game against the 49ers, I believe it was 3rd and 1. They handed it to Christian McCaffrey. Christian Wilkins was in the backfield so damn fast. He slid before that blocker could even lay a finger on him. Tackled McCaffrey behind the line of scrimmage, forced a punt. Those are the plays that you get noticed for as a defensive tackle. And yes, he's doing those, but he's also doing the other little things like hitting those stunts, hitting those twists, giving these edge rushers opportunities to sack the quarterback. Because the last 3 weeks, we've been getting more sacks as well. But Christian Wilkins, man, like I said, dude's about to get paid, and hopefully it's by us. Let's do a stock down. And this one's tricky for me because Tua obviously had his worst game of the season last week against the 49ers. But is it something he can bounce back from? 100% absolutely. And why do I say that? Well, I say that because what are his top traits? Accuracy and eye manipulation. And guess what? His accuracy was off. It happens. Sometimes you ever have a bad day at work where it's just not quite there? That's essentially what Tua ended up having here. It was just a bad day at the office where his timing with wide receivers were off. He talked about it in the post-game presser. Receivers were breaking a little bit different than what he had thought they would. These are things that are correctable. These aren't misreading the playbook. This isn't an arm strength thing. None of this is something that we haven't seen Tua thrive at in the past. We're talking about one of his biggest strengths. So the fact that it just happened to be a little bit faulty this last week, because look at his second half. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. He was already starting to kind of get things figured out. I have no doubt in my mind that Tua will bounce back from this. We need him to bounce back really quick against the Chargers. Got some opportunities to make some big plays in that game, but we're going to need it now because we got booted out of first place in the East, and we're now back to, I believe, the 6th seed in the AFC playoff picture. So if we want that game against the Bills to be super meaningful, which it likely will be, but man, that game is going to have some implications if we can get this win against the Chargers and if Tua can look good in the process. We got to have that bounce back. So stock down for Tua, but with a great opportunity to get that thing right back up because of what his shortcomings were against the 49ers are literally his strengths. So I'm not all that worried about it. So stock down for Tua. I think we might be able to get a stock up next week. This next one. So I talked about this in the Dolphins 49ers recap video because I said before I even really looked into anything, I said, maybe I'm on an island here, but I thought Mike McDaniel's game plan was borderline genius against the 49ers. And then the last couple of days, I've been doing some perusing on Twitter, and I just see all these people just blasting McDaniel, saying we got to run the ball more, need more balance. And that's great. I'm all about balance. I keep going back to that Dolphins-Browns game where we dominated through the air. We dominated on the ground. It was our best game. That's what you want. That's 100% what you want your offense to look like. Well, guess what? It's not always going to be like that. Against the 49ers, we rattled off all the things that they're great at defensively last week. They're awesome against the run. I think they've given up the least amount of rushing yards in the entire league this year. First in yards allowed per rush per carry. They're giving up no touchdowns on the ground. Why are you going to develop a game plan where you're just running it right into the defensive strength? I don't understand that. Is 8 carries small? Sure. But at the end of the day, why am I just going to do what the defense excels at? It doesn't make sense to me. And the amount of pass plays, yeah, it was high given that game and given Tua's accuracy issues. But at the end of the day, the plays were there. The plays were 100% there. They were schemed up perfectly. The protections were schemed up perfectly. The wide receivers were running free in that pretty good secondary. We were just missing. The play calling, in my opinion, was phenomenal. It wasn't to blame by any means whatsoever. So I absolutely just loved what Mike McDaniel was able to do there. It really kind of proved to me, like, you know what? On a fly, missing a top 5 NFL left tackle, playing with a backup right tackle as well, I can scheme something up against a pretty damn good pass rush, and I can do that against that defense. Like I said, if that execution is there, back to the E word, we're not talking about this. We're praising Mike McDaniel's ability as a play caller to be able to draw these things up for Tua, to be able to do this kind of offense against any defense in the entire NFL. So were the run totals low? Sure. Am I okay with that? 100%. I have no issues whatsoever. Talk to me in the comments if you disagree. I like to hear things from other sides. So if you have a complete beef with how many run plays there were, go ahead, let me know. I'd like to hear it from your perspective as well. I got one more stock down here as well. And this is more of an effort finishing thing on the defensive side of the ball. And I kind of probably unfairly called out Eric Rowe. He just happened to be the one that was really pointed out on the broadcast and was the closest to Purdy when he did that quarterback sneak. But we see it all the time. And I'm referring to the quarterback sneak. I believe it was on 4th and 1 where he ended up getting it, extending the drive, where Zach Sealer had Purdy in a bear hug. He had him dead to rights. All it took was either Rowe, or I think it might have been Roberts or Eric Rowe for sure, to just come in and finish that. But we saw the effort on the other end. We saw the 49ers grab Purdy and push him forward, push him for those extra yards. Whereas our defense, they're just like, all right, well, Sealer's got this. We're off the field. Not the case. You got to give 100% effort all the time. You got to give that Christian Wilkins-like effort. That's 100% what we needed on that play. And if we would have got that Christian Wilkins-like effort from probably any of those guys next to the ball, we would have been just fine. There's also a couple of plays against Deebo Samuel as well. And I almost give the guys a pass for missing some of those tackles because Deebo makes people look silly on a weekly basis. But man, there was one where like 4 guys had Deebo dead to rights and he just kind of ducked underneath. And it was like the most, I think they said it on the broadcast, like the most impressive 4-yard loss of all time. But man, it should have been about an 8-yard loss. So Eric Rowe, all those guys that were damn near close to it, effort, finishing, those are the things that we need in this game, in last week's game, if we're going to be able to make up for some of the shortcomings that we had on offense with, you guessed it, the execution. I got one more stock up, and I said a couple of weeks ago I didn't even need to give stock up to a guy like Tyreek Hill anymore. But I have no choice but to throw him on here just because for the sheer fact that I want to talk about him a little bit here. You saw it during the broadcast. How many yards is he away now from the single season record? And we're what 12? The Dolphins are 12 games into the season. He's going to do, as long as he stays healthy, knock on wood if you're at home watching this, he's going to just obliterate that record. Now think about what he just did there too. Tua was off that game. Waddle was hurt that game, so you could focus more of your attention to Tyreek Hill. And the dude still went off, still toasting guys down the middle of the field for that touchdown from Tua. That catch that he had kind of on that wheel route along the sideline where he one-armed it and was able to corral the ball in and get the first down, making up and helping Tua out there on a day where he was struggling. Just think about how big that day could have been for Tyreek Hill if Tua wouldn't have had the accuracy issues that he did in that game. I mean, he already had a monster game, but that game would have been phenomenal. So like I said, I could give Tyreek Hill the stock up every single week, but I needed to point it out because of the sheer amount of plays he was able to make. And Jalen Waddle did say earlier in this week that, you know what, That issue was just a kind of an in-game issue. Should be back. I will be able to play against the Chargers, and we obviously want a full strength wide receiver unit. But to be able to see Tyreek get that done against that defense on a day that Tua is struggling, while Jalen Waddle is hurt, while you can focus more of your attention on Tyreek Hill, absolutely stack up Tyreek Hill. So those are the ones that I've got for today, Dolphins fans. But like I said, I'm curious to hear what you've got as well. So drop your stock up, stock down candidates in the comments below, and let's chat more about it there. I will be back with my next video, which is going to be the keys to victory over the Chargers. So make sure you get subscribing, turning on those notifications so you can catch that video as soon as it is dropped. But that's what I've got for today, Miami Dolphins fans. And until that next time, fins up.